Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn about SQL constraints. So without further ado, let's get started. SQL constraints are the rules that you apply to columns or tables that control what type of data can be inserted, deleted or updated. Therefore, it helps data to be valid and consistent. Constraints can be defined during table creation or during altering a table later on. SQL provides different types of constraints in order to manage different aspects of data integrity. So these are SQL constraints. Now let's go to each of them with their detailed explanations. Not null. In fact, a column can hold null values by default. Therefore, if we mention not null constraint to a column, it ensures a column cannot contain null value. This is important in the scenario where a value is very essential in order to identify records or any specific calculations. Hence, there is not null mentioned in a column. That means every row must include a value for that column. In this given example, we have created a table named users, and both the user ID and the email columns are defined with the not null constraint. That means every user must have an user ID and email value. The unique constraint ensures that all values in a column are different or unique across all rows in a table. Unique constraint allow null values unlike primary keys. We can have many unique constraints in a table, however, there can be only one primary key constraint in a table. In this example, the product ID column must have unique values, ensuring that no products can share the same product ID. And not null constraint means the product ID column cannot have a null value. A primary key constraint identifies each row in a table. A table can have only one primary key, and primary keys must contain unique values and cannot include null values. In this example, the employee ID column is set as the primary key, ensuring each employee ID is unique and it cannot be null. A foreign key constraint creates relationships between tables. That means it links a column of one table to the primary key in another table. A table with its foreign key is called the child table, whereas the table with the primary key is called the parent or the reference table. As shown in this example, we have two tables, one is departments and the another one is employees. In the table departments, we have columns as department ID and department name. Here department ID is the primary key. Similarly, in the table employees, we have columns like employee ID, name and department ID. Here employee ID is the primary key, whereas department ID is the foreign key. This foreign key in the table employees references to department ID in the table departments. Value in one table exists in another, like an employee must belong to a certain department. Check constraint ensures that the values in a column satisfies a specific condition before it is inserted into a table. In this example, we have table name orders and we have order ID and quantity as the columns. We have mentioned check constraint in the quantity column. Therefore, it ensures quantity must be greater than 0. Default constraint sets a default value for a column when no value is provided during insertion. This is useful when we use for standard values. In this table students, we have mentioned default 19 at age column. Therefore, if we do not provide any value for age column, then the default value 19 will be assigned automatically. Hence, this is how we use default constraint in SQL. How to specify constraints in SQL? SQL constraints can be specified when you make our table using create table statement. This is the syntax to specify constraints in SQL. We can also add or remove constraints after table is created by using alter table statement. We'll practice them in the upcoming videos. Okay, this is all for SQL constraints. These constraints are very essential for creating clean and reliable databases. And understanding these constraints help us in designing error-free databases. Next, we'll learn how to insert data in a table in SQL. So if this video is helpful to you, be sure to hit like, subscribe and let me know in the comment which SQL topic you'd like to see next. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next episode.